Hey everyone, welcome to Governor DAO's DAO Speed Dating Ep.4. Some quick information about Governor DAO. Governor DAO's ethos is to offer governance as a service and provide that at the highest standard to other projects across the space and to help them achieve the best governance strategies. Governor also provides consultations, audits, revenue model implementations, and more. Governor has become the leader for solving Sybil resistance with a non-KYC solution called Proof of Existence, which enables one voice, one vote governance, fair launch NFT drops, fair launch token launches, human gating for Discord, Telegram, play to earn gaming, metaverses, and more. So I'd like to encourage you to check us out further at governordao.org and check out our Proof of Existence at proofofexistence.xyz. With that out of the way, we're joined today by Lobby3, Xtoken Terminal, and League DAO. The purpose of this space is to bridge communities, provide education, network, and possibly even collaborate. Eth, who do we have as our first guest?
Awesome. Thanks for the intro, Blake. First up, we have Lobby3. Lobby3 is an experimental Web3 policy advocacy DAO. They're seeking to educate policymakers about Web3's potential for social good and to represent the policy positions of the Web3 community. The floor is yours, Lobby3.
Hi, guys, and thanks for putting this together. This is the first DAO Speed Dating I've attended, hosted by Governor DAO, and I really like the idea of this, bridging communities and letting these different communities become aware of each other, and I think it's very important. I know you guys did a similar thing with Sapien. I think these kind of conversations are important. But yeah, about Lobby3, to elaborate on that introduction, the twofold mission is to educate policymakers about Web3 and to find ways to represent the Web3 community. In terms of what that would actually entail us doing, it looks like there could be a way we can kind of hit two birds with one stone there, and that's going to be publishing documents that detail certain policy positions that Lobby3 is taken, that are kind of deliberated internally to Lobby3, and ideally we wouldn't just be posting these documents unilaterally, just proclaiming some policy position, but we'd be able to post them and gather signatures of Web3 wallets of those who support it and maybe even those who oppose it as well. And so we're exploring certain solutions. I may look into your proof of existence actually about this because it seems pretty pertinent. But the idea is that we can detail some policy positions in the form of a public letter or an essay of some kind, and then have categories of Web3 wallet owners that signed their approval, and we could have a section for anonymous. So you don't need a proof of existence or a proof of personhood, proof of residency even is what we're looking into specifically. You don't necessarily need one of these things to sign your approval, but it would also help to have a category. I think in principle it would help to have a category of signers who do have such a solution, so that we can have greater confidence that these things aren't being that they have Sybil resistance. And then beyond identifying policy positions that we think reflect some social good or environmental good, although Lobby3 is more focused, just incidentally so far, focused on social good. Beyond detailing policy positions that we think reflect these priorities, we may also continue in the direction of funding certain projects that we think advance Web3 democracy or put Web3 technology to a use that we think furthers social good. So I think operationally, there's detailing policy positions and then maybe funding certain projects. But a lot of this stuff is still being deliberated and still being fine-tuned in terms of what exactly it would entail, like what format policy position documents should take, stuff like that. And so if you guys are interested, you don't need Lobby3 membership tokens to get involved in these conversations we're having. They should be maximally open. So if anyone is interested in this, reach out or join our Discord and join the conversation.
Thanks so much, Lobby3, for that. I really do appreciate that with most DAOs in particular, you can join in. You don't have to be a token holder to participate, and it's the same for Governor DAO. We have our proof of existence, human gated channel where we do leak some alpha and things like that, but it's not a requirement to participate in the ecosystem as a whole. So super excited to hear that members can get involved without having to hold any tokens. Blake, did you have any questions for Lobby DAO?
Yeah, one of the questions I had is if you can go into a little more detail about some of the policy goals that Lobby3 looks to promote.
Yeah, the first one we're exploring is on stablecoin regulation. Right now, our partner advocacy group, our sole and first partner advocacy group, is Humanity Forward, which is another like an issue-based. It's not a Web3 organization, but it's an issue-based advocacy group founded by Andrew Yang, and their mission is to combat poverty and increase financial inclusion. And then we're working with them to kind of suss out how Web3 technology may be able to address those goals. But Lobby3 itself is being built to have more than one advocacy group partner. But Humanity Forward is our partner so far. And then they requested a bit of a briefing or a report on the different types of stablecoins. And so it started out just as, detailing a kind of explain it like I'm five thing about what's the difference between asset-backed stablecoins, algorithmic stablecoins, hybrid ones, how can they potentially be regulated in different ways. Like, arguably we wouldn't be regulating algorithmic stablecoins the same way that we would be regulating stablecoins that have a 100% collateralization ratio with dollars or dollar equivalents. And so we can we're kind of exploring a different regulation vector specific to algorithmic stablecoins, and I can actually share the Google Doc with Governor DAO later if you guys wanted to give your opinions on it. But what we suggested so far, and again this is still subject to deliberation, is that certain algorithmic stablecoins, instead of the focus of regulation being on reserves for as in asset-backed stablecoins, for algorithmic stablecoins, you can just enforce certain standards about smart contract security. And this could be a governmental program or it could be some private sector program, hypothetically speaking. But I think, if the industry got together and fleshed out some standards for what algorithmic stablecoins should be, how they should be built in certain ways, and then ones that meet certain criteria maybe can get a certain kind of seal of approval, which investors, institutional or retail investors, can sort of take as a vote of confidence that this stablecoin is built in ways that were kind of audited preemptively, rather than just being totally experimental. But I think another important thing here is that we don't want to gatekeep, how certain stablecoins can be circulated and other ones can't. But yeah, that's our first policy position is about stablecoins. But after that, we would want to look into DAO legal entity forms beyond just an LLC that's kind of nudged toward a DAO. And I know
Sure.
LexDAO is really active on stuff like this. But yeah, those are the two things we're going to be exploring first, starting with stablecoins.
Very cool. Have you guys had any discussion about CBDCs and whether or not those are viewed positively or negatively, or with certain requirements on them or anything like that?
The stablecoin report so far doesn't touch on CBDCs. We could have a separate policy position on those. Speaking personally, not necessarily on behalf of Lobby3. I think
Sure.
we could have stablecoin solutions that are privately issued, that could, with the right regulation, kind of almost function or kind of meet the needs that a CBDC would meet. I'm not necessarily convinced that it would need to be run by a central bank, but maybe there are other considerations there that I'm not giving enough credit to. But yeah, I think that could be its own policy position document.
Cool. One last question for you, and that's kind of just along the lines of building out the lobby organization with the regulations involved in that? What's the process like for building out having a lobbying organization, or what classification are you guys?
I'm calling Lobby3 an impact advocacy DAO, because as it is right now, we don't have Lobby3 members going to meet with policymakers. Instead, we're kind of like we're almost like a consultancy DAO for Humanity Forward or the likes thereof, organizations that are kind of institutionally greenlit to do the kind of lobbying that we're talking about. And I
Okay.
think a lot of this is kind of held up by DAOs needing certain entity structures that allow them to be decentralized and protect liability and actually engage in these kind of activities.
Cool. No, that makes a lot of sense. I actually do some political work outside of crypto. Is there anything else that you would like to tell our audience before we go to the next guest?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to emphasize that this is like a really kind of uncharted territory, and the direction we're moving right now, we may learn something in the coming months that informs us and inspires us to kind of change direction a bit. And so I think that's worth emphasizing, that this is a very fast moving space, and it's insanely, all this stuff is insanely complex as it is, yet alone trying to square it with the existing regulatory framework and legal system. So I think we need to be cognizant of that moving forward, and be open to kind of being flexible and maneuverable.
For everybody listening, you can follow them at Lobby3D, and there's more information about them, like their website and Discord and all that good stuff. Eth, do you want to introduce our next guest?
Ben is the growth lead for Xtoken. With their terminal platform, Xtoken is simplifying DeFi primitives like selling tokens, minting NFTs, and deploying liquidity incentives so that project devs can focus on building and avoiding financial contract risk. Their goal is to build a permissionless investment bank.
Awesome. Hey guys, thanks so much for having me, and thanks for the introduction. So my name's Ben. I'm the growth lead with Xtoken, and our flagship product Terminal has some exciting updates coming up. As ETH Ledger mentioned, we think of ourselves sort of as a permissionless investment bank, and really what this means is that we're providing the infrastructure for DeFi and NFT projects to really get simple and seamless access to sort of the fundamental financial primitives that so many projects take advantage of. So it sounds really complex, but it's sort of basic things like raising liquidity through a token offering or through an NFT mint, or offering liquidity incentives to liquidity providers. So these are kind of like battle-tested primitives that are ever present in the DeFi space, and a lot of projects do them, but a lot of projects are basically building them, from scratch or from forking another contract, and it's really outside of their core competencies. So our view and sort of the impetus for building these solutions is dev hours are, basically the most precious resource in DeFi. And we feel that projects should be sort of focusing on what is core to them. So if it's an NFT project, it's sort of the art and the storytelling and the community. And they shouldn't be building out these financial contracts. When they build their own, they need to basically spend a couple of weeks developing a contract. They need to build a user interface, some way for users to interact with the platform. They need to get those audited, and they need to maintain a base of code. And this consumes a lot of time and resources, and it also opens them up to a ton of risk. And there are a number of examples recently of projects whose, financial contracts have had a line of code that was an error and just completely, brought down the mint or the token sale or whatever it may be. So we have a number of apps today. We designed them all to be entirely permissionless, trustless, and seamless. So you don't need Xtoken really for anything. You can go ahead on Terminal, click a couple of buttons, and deploy a token sale if you'd like. We we're not in the business of gatekeeping. We're really just providing sort of best-in-class, flexible contract architecture and a really easy-to-use user experience so that users don't need to write a single line of code when they're interacting with any of our products. And we have 2 applications live today. We've got mining, which is for deploying incentivized liquidity mining programs on Uniswap v3. So basically, if you want to incentivize users to provide liquidity to your token, which is hugely important for lowering slippage and for having that on-chain liquidity available for swaps, you can do that in a couple of clicks. And then we are just in the next couple of weeks launching our origination app. And you can basically think of that like an on-chain coin list or an on-chain Kickstarter. So there are a lot of cool use cases, and perhaps we'll talk about them in a further question. But sort of the basic use case is selling a token and bootstrapping liquidity.
Awesome, man. Yeah, lots of cool stuff going on there. You guys are also on Arbitrum, is that right?
Yeah, we're on mainnet and 3L2s, Polygon, Arbitrum, Optimism.
Awesome. Are you going to be part of that Arbitrum Odyssey quest at all? Do you know?
We weren't an official part of the Odyssey program, so maybe we can get that changed by the time it relaunches. But we were planning on having some of our own sort of Odyssey adjacent initiatives.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much for that. And if people want to get involved, they can follow Xtoken on Twitter. There's a Discord server. Any other notes, additional things you'd like to add, Ben?
Yeah, that's the best way to follow us at Xtoken Terminal. Join our Discord as well. It's pretty active and a lot of fun. We also have an ongoing bounty program for if you do know of any projects who want to release a token or incentivize liquidity, definitely contact me. And we're paying out XTK incentives for qualified leads that result in a program. So if you know of anyone, as I mentioned, these are pretty common kind of primitives that a lot of projects do. So if it's the right time, right place for anyone get in touch.
Okay, Blake, back to you. Do you want to introduce our third guest?
Next guest is League DAO. League DAO launched in 2021 and is a community-owned play-to-earn game development project that focuses on fantasy sports and uses these game models to push the boundaries of NFTs and Web3 technology. League DAO's co-founder, Jake Craven, has been working in the Web3 and entertainment game space since 2017, and prior to League DAO, played a key role leading teams in the development of blockchain-based tools for independent filmmakers and creators. A lifelong sports fan, he founded League DAO as a DAO because of the unique possibilities that community-based ownership could offer other sports fans around the world.
Yeah, thank you guys for letting us be a part of this. Really appreciate it and love what you guys are doing. Like you mentioned with the brief intro, League DAO is a community-owned DAO, I guess, that specifically focuses on the play-to-earn game space within the realm of what we kind of like to call competitive entertainment, which is fantasy sports, but it goes beyond just sports itself. And it's looking at how this technology can be applied to different game models that take the experience of being a fan and really add a whole other participation layer, but also a way to kind of earn rewards at the same time. We launched our first protocol or actual platform back in the fall of 2021, and that is sort of like what we call the Nomo Keeper League. It's sort of like taking fantasy sports but using tokenomics, DeFi, and and sort of larger kind of decentralized infrastructure and oracles to create a game where you own your players and you own them forever, and every season, as long as they're still playing in the league, you can earn rewards based on how those players perform in real world games. We then went on to launch another game, which was sort of more of like a kind of, we call it Scramble or Crypto Fantasy, where it's kind of like a randomized, almost like in the way of like Loot, where you have a randomized team of players minted onto an NFT, and then you score points based on how those players on that NFT perform. And then in March, so Q1 2022, we launched our non-fungible brackets protocol, which is a tokenized bracket tournaments. So we launched it with a March Madness bracket pool. So users go to our app and fill out their bracket by picking, the winners of the tournament and different rounds, and then mint that as an NFT. And all of everything that we do, and so we, I'm running off a list of the different games and protocols that we've built, but the key thing is that what we've done is we've developed a core infrastructure that allows us to create game models that have this sort of unique play to earn mechanism, where the points and the scoring and rewards are determined by real world events. So with that infrastructure, our team now continues to build out different game models, and doing that with the support and the input and the insight of our community. So that's where the DAO mechanism comes in. How we evolve and grow and decide on the future of the different games that we're developing, how we utilize resources, what are the rules, what are the mechanics, how do tokenomics fall into it. All of those components are all discussed and developed in conjunction with the community of league governance token holders. And I didn't mention, when we launched League DAO, we also simultaneously launched our governance token, the league token, and our governance application, which is a fork of some of our sister projects and communities. The original DAO that was deployed, or governance app deployed for the projects Barnbridge, and then Universe DAO and Enter DAO. And so through that process, we're actually, while we are kind of an independent DAO, League DAO is also part of this larger consortium of DAO first projects that have used and continue to build upon and iterate around this core governance application that we all utilize, and that incorporates the proof of liquidity, yield farming to decentralize the token and get into a larger pool of users' hands, but then also how we approach liquidity incentives and liquidity mining and things like that.
How did it come about? How did League DAO start originally?
Yeah, League DAO, sort of the earliest iterations or kind of origination of it was, I was on a call with who ended up being co-founder in League DAO, Tyler Ward, and we were just having a conversation. This was back in the summer of 2020, so right in the midst of DeFi summer, and before the big kind of NFT boom began. And we were having a conversation about, I think, NFL season was coming up, and I had just uncovered a massive treasure trove of my dad's old baseball cards from the 70s and 80s. And so we were, talking about NFTs and games and how sports can be integrated into that. And because it was during this DeFi summer, right, it was also thinking about how DeFi could play a role, right, and how that could add a unique element to the game that also differentiates it and maybe makes it more sustainable than a lot of Web2 fantasy games, where the rewards and prizes are essentially funded by companies themselves as a loss leader, as a part of their user acquisition costs. So we spent the next year sort of architecting it, bringing on some developers and building the core kind of foundational model behind League DAO. And then in August of 2021, we launched actually with what we called our Genesis League, which was a private fantasy league where it was a number of kind of influential individuals and like protocol leads and product owners and investors and whatnot that all participated in a closed fantasy football league, and we used that Genesis League to bootstrap League DAO and to actually get it launched. So, and that's where we actually, codified it and created, I guess, it deployed our governance application, which is what we use today to run community votes, and where the revenue from the protocols, our open source protocols, funnel back to our treasury, and the community then gets to weigh in and then vote on how we utilize the funds from the treasury.
And how does the the fantasy sports game portion, like how does that benefit from community ownership and vice versa? Like what's that relationship like?
Yeah, I think community ownership and like DAOs end up being really valuable and really beneficial to games and like GameFi and player games in general, because while there's an evolution in terms of the like decentralization, and I think anyone on this call, like, and any of the other projects talking on this call would attest to, you start with there's inevitably going to be a certain level of centralization when you launch a product and you're building those early iterations, but then the ability to have that community truly be a part of the process and weigh in and be stakeholders in the actual evolution of the games themselves, in terms of what are the features that we should be adding, what are the right game models that make sense. A lot of these things, a lot of this stuff are things that Web 2 products, put together surveys, and their product development teams and product managers are going out and just asking people, maybe getting them a gift card for their input, or they take the risk of building a product in a silo and then releasing it, and either it's a boom or a success, or it's a complete bust. And for a lot of video games especially, it's a big risk that companies take. So the DAO approach allowed us to, for League DAO, it allowed us to, we had, effectively our beta, but to create a model where the people and the users that were participating in the early iterations and continuing to be a part and becoming contributors in the actual projects in the DAO itself, created this network and hive mind of people that are passionate and experience and offer a lot of different insights that helped us rapidly iterate and improve what League DAO was building and the offerings that we have. So coming up this fall or this August, really, and actually we're launching the token drop. It's a sign up for the upcoming fantasy football season. The product that we are launching, we're called the Mega League. It's a massive overhaul and evolution of our fantasy football games that is really focused on the user experience, the gameplay, where skill and strategy get added, and all of that came through collaboration with the community. And it opens up another level of growth and expansion, and also efficiency, if when done the right way, and when the community input is harnessed and channeled properly. That, in my opinion and from my experience, I think centralized projects and companies aren't able to tap into.
Wow. Yeah, I could ask like so many different questions. I do have a couple more. So one of them is like, how many players have been using the game? How many players have been engaged in the game? Like, do you have analytics on that?
Yeah, there's about, I would say, around like a couple thousand unique wallets that have participated in our different protocols, because we've launched a couple different game models, like I said. And we also have launched, we have of the Nomo Keeper League, we have our original football league, but we also have a basketball league and like a keeper basketball league that's up and running. And like I said, we were able to see a lot of, and capture a lot of data very quickly. And also it's, beyond that, we have our, there are the users that are participating in our game. So there's also the actual token holders, and then there are the people who have their tokens staked in the DAO. and are actually participating in governance directly. And then we have a subgroup of what we call the 12th man, which is even smaller kind of niche network of contributors that are a part of the DAO itself within Discord. So they have their own, and that's like a group that we can go back to and engage maybe a little bit more actively and ask more of them, but they're also getting more in return. So creating these kind of sub communities, and there's also beyond that we have little like separate like private working groups around separate issues or aspects of our game. So one of the things that we do that makes it sustainable is that it's also sort of unique to DAO is the like revenue that's collected from people buying in and joining leagues. We actually stake that in the DeFi protocol to generate yield. So it actually is a more sustainable play to earn model than a lot of other games, like I mentioned. And so we have a working group of people from the community that weigh in on, all right, well, what's our strategy around that yield? Like, how do we balance like wanting to increase the yield so there's larger rewards, but also, navigate the risk and offset that? And that's something that we communicate and engage with the community around. So there's a lot of different like sub facets of participation. That was a really long-winded answer to your question, but yeah.
It's all good. It's all really great. Very entertaining, and yeah, I mean, it's a prime example of the power of a DAO and what can be accomplished. And maybe we can talk about this more when we open up for a general discussion. But my last question for you is, so like with the fantasy league games, can parties like have their own separate like fantasy pool, and then for a prize, like if a person wins, are they given an NFT, are they given tokens, and how does that work?
Yeah, so there's to your first question, our bigger vision, and I think this also aligns with why we built League DAO as a DAO, as right an open source community run project, is our long-term growth and model is around enabling anyone to create their own, like launch their own and host their own fantasy leagues and games using League DAO's protocols, right, and our platforms. So right now, like the upcoming football season, it's sort of the League DAO sponsored Mega League. For non-fungible brackets, it was the League DAO sponsored March Madness pool. Next March Madness, the NCAA tournament, anyone will be able to deploy their own, like create their own pool. And part of that's one, it's you allowing what we've built to be a tool for other communities to have their members be engaged, because a lot of communities in the Web3 space still launch their own fantasy games or like bracket pools and things like that, but they're doing it and managing it manually, which is a pain. And then we also it also creates opportunities for like sub rewards and different types of like closed and like private leagues, which is for like the fantasy sports game really important, because you have a lot of people who played in the same like fantasy 12 people since they all went to college together. So we don't want to navigate away from that. And I think that also aligns with like the larger mission for League DAO is to be a powerful on-ramp to Web3. We know that there's a lot of alignment with the interests and demographics of sports fans, but I think the games and the user experiences can be developed in a way that feels native and feels natural, aren't already fluent and familiar with blockchain. And that's a big part of what we aim to do and how we think about our user design and product development. So that's the first question. Second question, and I'll be very quick with it. Second question is, the rewards vary depending on the game and also who's sort of owning the league or hosting it. Right now, if you participate in our fantasy football league coming up, the Mega League, the prizes are paid out in, well, there are different tiers of prizes. There's weekly prizes that you earn, which is, and those are actually paid out in league tokens. And part of that's because the league tokens also used within the game themselves, not just as a governance tool. So we have a free agent marketplace where you are bidding and auctioning free agent players, and so that marketplace requires the league token. So there's kind of more of a flywheel of usage within the actual game and week to week. But then there are the end of season rewards, like if you win the division that you're in, because it's broken into 12 divisions of 12 teams, you're earning DAI, so you're earning real money rewards for participating in our games. And the same thing with the Keeper League, the reward pool and the rewards that are paid out are in DAI.
Super glad that you're able to come on and share with us today, Jake. And I'm going to turn it back over to Blake if he has any other questions or if he wants to open up the discussion.
Yeah, I think now's a great time to open up for discussion. Let's talk about how the bear market's affecting us all. I know you guys are projects that are building even in spite of the bear market. But tell us about some of the challenges about that, or even some of the highlights you've seen. I know over at Governor, we've kind of seen now that the kind of the riffraff, the projects that are based solely on hype are struggling. The projects with real utility and whatnot are kind of starting to gain some foothold, and we've kind of seen that at Governor as we've found a lot of projects more interested in finding ways to work together and finding cool applications and ways to use tech and things like that. So what have your guys' experiences been?
Yeah, I'd actually kind of agree about the current market conditions kind of flushing away a lot of the hype, and those who are left here right now, like you said, for people that are building stuff one way or the other through these market conditions are the people that really believe in it and see actual use cases and a reason to stick around beyond speculative investment. And I think it's like in a way I kind of prefer this kind of market condition from a perspective of actually building stuff and getting stuff done, because it's like there's less noise to cut through in a way. But then there's also the aspect of like community engagement. You kind of see that like the tide kind of lower there as well. In the case of Lobby3, and I'm curious about you other guys. In the case of Lobby3, community engagement is kind of a non-issue, because right now it's so much of this is so ambiguous and highly technical that it's almost more conducive to like self-starters to get involved and to really start shaping the direction that certain DAOs are taking right now. But I'm wondering if you guys have any similar experiences about getting kind of like casual contributors or community members to get involved, if there's like bounties you guys are doing or ways that people can get involved in terms of contribution, or if you guys are also experiencing that for the most part the actual work being done is being done by people that don't need so much direction and are able to kind of find their own way.
Ben, you got your hand up. You want to go?
Hey, yeah, I actually don't have a direct response to Lobby3's question. It's an interesting one about, sort of engaging the community on an ongoing basis. But so I would love to dive into that a little bit more after. I do have a few remarks just from our unique perspective, building sort of infrastructure that other projects use. So on the token origination front, it's definitely a tough time to launch and sell a token right now. So we completely understand that. A lot of folks we're speaking with who maybe had a summer launch are pushing it towards the winter, and I think that's totally fine. But this is also it's become kind of a meme. But bear market season is builder season as well. Liquidity is still going to be needed. Token sales will still be happening, and with a permissionless tool like ours, you can kind of mix, match, and experiment. So you can go ahead and sell, a couple hundred tokens as like a very limited first round, and there's not a ton of risk because you don't need to spend time sort of building out these contract architecture. It doesn't necessarily need to be like a full-blown token sale where if you don't hit a certain amount, like the project's dead. It can be just sort of more of the Kickstarter model because it is so easy to plug in. On the liquidity mining front, we're seeing similar constraints where projects don't want to throw like a ton of incentives into something, but liquidity is, potentially more important now than during the bull market, because if folks are going to invest in your product and do on-chain swaps, there needs to be sufficient liquidity there. There needs to be growth, and there needs to be a community that's sort of rallying behind that. So we definitely encourage projects, even during the painful months, use liquidity mining incentives strategically, and I think there will still be a lot of great opportunities to bring new folks into a token through LM incentives, even in the bear.
Jake, you got your hand up?
Yeah. I mean, I'll just, I think it's a little different of a scenario for us, I would say, just because I think in a lot of ways, games, it creates, they're sort of bear proof. Not to say that League DAO is entirely, shielded from the bear market, because we have a governance token, like a token that's out, and a token economy, and and anything in the larger market conditions will impacts that, and that's just the name of the game for us. But I think for us, the focus, and I think this also just goes to the larger like play to earn space, is you have to be building engaging and fun games that people want to play. And if you do that, then people will like it's almost like I had a conversation last week with a contributor and supporter of ours, who was expressing like I just basically like I need fantasy football season to start, so I have something to look at other than like crypto Twitter and like the charts. So like it can serve as a distraction and a way to step away from a lot of things, especially when the market is, and there's so much flux going on. I think also our approach has been more around building unique products and protocols that will keep going no matter what's going on in the larger market conditions, as opposed to building a community around a single collectible that we minted and dropped, and then that community is sort of asking like, great, what now? Like, if the floor price on an NFT collection drops, then that's the like what people equate to the value of the project. What we've done is to focus instead on like game pieces and this larger utility, so that the floor price of an NFT of like one of the League DAO players isn't the predominant determining factor of the success of of what we're doing. So I think that's been a big thing for us. But I think also fundamentally, all of us, like a lot of the core team at League DAO and a lot of our advisors and supporters and contributors, are all people that really kind of built and a lot of our experience came in during like the last like crypto winter, and the relationships that we've developed during those years from 2017 to 2021 are the people that really came through and proved to be the ones that really brought a lot of value when and during the last bull market. And I think that's just an important thing. It's like it's less about kind of volume and the number and just showing like are there 10,000 people in the Discord, right? Like it's more what's the quality of the people who are around the contributors and those relationships that you're building, and finding ways to incentivize and continue to engage the core group while a lot of the noise dies out, like other speakers have mentioned. And I think if you can do that and hopefully have the runway to withstand the bear market, then I think ultimately projects will be better off long term because of what we're going through right now.
Yeah, 100%. Just from my own experience, like this is my first sort of bear market. Got into crypto a few years ago, and with the emergence of DAOs, like and NFT projects to a certain extent, we've seen like this incredible opportunity for people to learn new things, to contribute in ways that maybe they didn't think they could like before. And an example for Governor DAO, like working with the Governor DAO ambassadors, I was a member of the Governor DAO community for a few years, and we got a small working group together and got creative and decided like this is something that we want to do to get the word out about Governor DAO and in all sorts of different ways, build documents, market, do some business development outreach, do social raise for the community, whatever, create merch, whatever it might be. And it's just been such an incredible opportunity for us to come together and to build out this program. Blake, did you want to speak to that a little more?
Yeah, it's also why we have DAO Speed Dating, is because we had this cool opportunity and a supportive core team that encourages the community to step up and find ways to contribute. And I think that's one of the cool things about the space. And then on top of that, and additionally, just from my own personal experience, I'm someone who has some medical issues. So a typical job experience is not something that I can particularly, at least not all the time, do in a normal sense. So having the opportunity to get involved in ways that can be very beneficial to the community and can do such cool things and impact the community is extremely exciting to me. And yeah, I just have loved my experience here and the couple other places I've been involved as well.
Totally. I was just going to say, like, yeah, my background is like in addictions work. So like, getting involved in crypto, getting passionate about it, and then joining a DAO was a game changer in terms of like being in school part-time and being heavily immersed in crypto Twitter and a lot of these communities just gave me a new skill set, a new opportunity to learn something new. So that's a pretty awesome part about DAOs in general, and contributing, meeting people from all over the world, networking that way as well. And I see that Netminer, he is our marketing ambassador. He's requested to speak, so I will bring him up to stage.
Oh yeah, so I'm Netminer, the marketing ambassador. I just want to piggyback on Ethan Blake's message as well. Really enjoy working with the DAO in general, in Governor DAO, and how we're basically focusing on helping others, be the best DAO that they can be as well, and providing a wonderful service and offering, not just shilling tokens like a lot of these folks all here doing. So I really enjoy the environment, the culture, and being able to experience something a whole lot different than the average W-2 earner, and look forward to learning even more and helping out. So just wanted to share that, and thanks.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks Netminer, and everybody else for their input. Is there another topic that you wanted to discuss today, Blake?
I think it might be cool to talk about some of the challenges that we're seeing in the space. And it's kind of like whether that's in our own little niches or just in general, and kind of ways we can, ways we think might be good solves, or I don't know, kind of leave it open for wherever our speakers want to take that.
Yeah, I can jump in. I will have to get off the call in a couple of minutes. From our perspective, and really sort of the reason behind our product is that just people doing their own sort of financial contracts without a ton of experience there. We have seen some pretty significant examples of people getting wrecked. So one example is the recent Akutars mint. It was a really high profile mint. It brought in, I think, like between 30 and 40 million in Ether. And some community members had pointed out that there were some potential vulnerabilities in the contract, but they weren't really taken too seriously. So there was actually a couple pieces of drama that played out. First, somebody effectively took it hostage and said, I can use this withdraw function, or there was some function in the contract where they could effectively like pause withdrawals. So they didn't have malicious intent. They just want to bring, you guys need to like pause the contract before and get this fixed before you proceed with the sale. And that issue ended up being resolved they proceeded with the sale, and there was another pretty minor bug that nobody had caught with the withdraw function of that contract, and effectively the whole $30 to $40 million of ether was locked in that contract forever. So they had basically just lost all this money because of a very simple bug, and it was something that was just entirely out of their wheelhouse. They could have contracted anyone to do it probably much cheaper and faster. So definitely a shame to see. And we've seen other similar things in with a lot of Uniswap mining programs like with Ribbon Finance, where these things seem pretty easy to deploy because you can just fork them. But if you do make a mistake and you're not thoughtful about the contract and get the right audits, really bad things can happen.
I mean, on that topic, does anyone have any opinions about industry standards for smart contract audits and any kind of like certification programs or anything? There could be some policy position to be taken on that in the short to midterm, maybe. So I think this also ties into the whole algorithmic stablecoin thing, but wondering if anyone had any opinions or was aware of any ongoing efforts about this.
Yeah, I think there are some standard Chainlink integration has been a big one. As for like a gold standard around contracts, security, and whatnot. That might be something that would be a great idea. I don't know how hard it would be to achieve, but definitely contract security is huge.
Yeah, I mean, and before I have to jump off, and I appreciate you guys for inviting us to participate in this, and have enjoyed it. But I will just add, I think on the audit front, I think you look at it, right now there's a X number of auditors that just sort of have like a subjective reputation that people trust, and there's a lot of demand and a lot of need for smart contract audits. And I know personally for us, we've gotten all of our protocols and all of our main contracts audited, and it's expensive, and the cost continues to grow. And the concern that I have is it becomes prohibitive for smaller and startup projects that don't have the resources to pay auditors a significant amount of money to get an audit. So there's definitely a need for something, because as it gets more expensive and bandwidth and availability gets tighter, then it creates more scenarios where people are going to feel like, well, it's just not worth it. Let's just deploy and hope for the best, and then maybe we'll like retroactively get it audited. But that opens the door for people to get wrecked and to lose money, and that's what we want to avoid. So I think there needs to be some work and collaboration around how to improve the current like smart contract audit infrastructure.
Yeah, I know you guys have to jet pretty soon, so we really appreciate you coming on. We might continue the conversation for a little bit longer. We have Jeff here with us, one of the lead developers, founders of Governor DAO. Jeff, did you want to add any thoughts? I know you jumped in mid-conversation here, but I would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, sure. I know a lot of the engineering consulting side of the work we do at Governor, and the quick 30-second elevator pitch is that we believe very strongly in DAO and the ethics of decentralization, and we understand it's hard to do DAO decentralization, DeFi well, and do it in a way that's safe, and we help projects do it better. And that includes some of our Sybil resistance technology that we can get more into if we haven't talked about that yet, as well as just some of our own best practices that we've formed. And one of the things that we do with a lot of the projects we work with is, like, most projects that are going and launching a crypto token or an NFT or iterating on top of some type of concept that's already been done, in most scenarios, they don't need to create an entirely new set of smart contracts to do what they do or do what they want to do. In most scenarios, we can go ahead and fork some templated contracts that we've used before and we're comfortable with. And in open source development, there can be kind of a stigma against like forking and copy pasting, quote unquote, code from one another. But I think it's really the opposite in crypto, because if you have this smart contract that, you know, all these different projects independently have deployed on, and it's been battle tested over and over and over again, that alleviates a lot of the concerns of, you know, what if we deploy this contract and something wrong happens, which is what you run into if you're making your own contracts from scratch. So we have templated NFT contracts, templated token contracts, templated auxiliary token launch contracts, and that kind of stuff. And whenever we're building new stuff, we try to originate from a code base that's been well tested. Like, for example, with our upcoming UBI style staking application, it's built on top of the synthetics pool architecture, or sorry, the Sushi Swap Master Chef pool architecture. And that's a contract that's been responsible for billions and billions of dollars in deposits, and it's one that we can feel comfortable building on top of. That if we were building from our own origin of code, we would need to have those audits or have, you know, very robust testing and still not feel 100% on it.
You talked a bit about the Sybil resistance stuff. We didn't really get a chance to get into it super deep. So for any of the listeners that haven't heard about Governor DAO's tech, Jeff, could you talk a bit more about that flagship technology, proof of existence?
Yeah, sure. And proof of existence is built upon that same ethos of Sybil resistance is something that a lot of most projects have to grapple with in one way or another. And so our positioning with proof of existence is, let's build out a solution that everyone can kind of plug and play, drag and drop, and you don't have to reinvent the whole wheel to protect against bots and whales. And the angle we come at Sybil resistance from is we use encrypted biometrics. So you do your own work to hash your face and voice into an encrypted output hash that's unique per individual. If you try to sign up again, you'll produce the same hash. If someone else tries to sign up, they'll produce a different hash. And then we compare those hashes, and if it's unique from all the other ones, it means the address that's signed up is unique from all the other addresses that have signed up. And from there, we allow you to mint your own non-transferable token. And then anyone in the world, all they have to do is look for a balance of that non-transferable token and apply that into the requirements or into the logic of any smart contract call or Web3 login. And so it's very easy to do in an NFT mint, where you add a flag where each person can only mint one, or, you know, anything along those lines. It's easy to append it for governance voting, and anything else.
Yeah, the part that excited me the most about that is the privacy aspect. I know I talk about this a lot, but I'm a big privacy wonk in the political sphere as well. And you know, having a protocol like this that focuses so much on keeping people's data private while still providing such a big utility is something that excites me a lot.
Yeah, definitely. And it's unfortunate that we've had some bad apples that are projects positioned similarly that have really tried to take advantage of data and users, and totally against our ethos. I'm primarily talking about WorldCoin, and their whole controversy really stems from recruiting people to sign up for their thing, promising them all this stuff, asking for all this data about who they are, where they live, recording them signing up, and then, you know, selling that to third parties and doing whatever they want with it. And, you know, that's something that we can never do with our platform. There's no way for us to do that. It's designed to be as lightweight and accessible as possible, but regardless, their tech comes from a similar strategy as ours, and we've had a lot more people recently that are more concerned with the privacy component, which is very important. I mean, especially in this space, I think people tend to value their privacy much higher than probably the general population.
With that, the proof of existence and, the emergence of like metaverses, social credit systems, reputation based projects, like what do you think about like the possible build out or integrations, collaborations between proof of existence and digital identity, like reputation based systems? Is there a way where users can stay somewhat anonymous still and build up reputation based? And is there also like a way that, users that want to take that next step and dox some information, like they can be rewarded as well?
Yeah, I think the way that I see it personally, and other people in the project have their own opinions, but I see proof of existence as a really strong foundation to all types of stuff that isn't otherwise possible if you don't have a good Sybil resistance mechanism from the get-go. And with that, in the future, we should see a lot of these different platforms that are doing decentralized ID, DeFi, credit passports, metaverse resume, all those types of stuff. They're all going to have differing levels of information requirements. And I think people will, hopefully in the future, when this stuff has all matured enough, they will have the freedom to choose between whether or not they want to share more information. I think there, for different people feel differently and they have different priorities. For me, of course, I'm doxxed in the space and I have been for quite some time. And, my reputation is pretty synonymous with my identity here. And so it makes sense for me to want to go out and say, hey, here's who I am. Here's the things I've done in the past. Here's, my long-standing time in the space. But not everyone has designed their presence online around that notion. A lot of people prefer to stay anonymous, and I think there'll be a space for both types of people.
Lobby3, is there anything you'd like to add to kind of the conversation we've been having about this kind of thing before we head to an outro?
Yeah. I mean, the proof of existence that you guys are talking about is really interesting. I'd want to look into it when this is over. And I talked about eventually we'll be posting policy position documents. I'm thinking we may use this platform called Kernel, but I don't know if they're fully launched yet. They may still be in some beta stage. Anyway, it allows you to post documents, and then it allows people to sign approval with their Web3 wallets at the bottom. And then I'm thinking there could be a way to allow anyone to sign this, but to also discriminate based on whether or not they have this non-transferable proof of existence token. And then that could be a sort of section of signatories of people that are ostensibly unique in their personhood, with that in a zero knowledge way that doesn't require them to disclose personal information. So, man, I'm really excited about experiments like this. I mean, something Lobby3 is going to be funding the development of is a proof of residency solution, which may be very important for like actual like public policy informing votes. If we need to discriminate not just based on unique personhood, but also based on like true or false, is this person a resident of California? Stuff like that. I think there's really, really interesting ways, and I think we do need to tread lightly in certain respects, especially if these things are non-transferable. If they're really stuck to you and you can't get rid of them, like we need to engineer them very carefully.
Well, this has been a really good space. There was a lot of cool stuff talked about today, from Lobby3 with their really cool policy-making DAO that's particularly focused on stablecoin regulation, lobbying and whatnot right now, and partnered with Andrew Yang and Humanity Forward. Xtoken Terminal, with their building a permissionless investment bank, which sounded really, really cool, as well as having, on-chain Kickstarter type things. And League DAO was pretty interesting as well, with fantasy sports and non-fungible bracket tournaments and all sorts of cool stuff with multiple games. Uh, it was just a really exciting time to talk with all you guys. Uh, we are going to be back in 2 weeks, I believe. Am I right, Eth?
Yeah, July 20th.
And so, yeah, we'll be back for episode 5 in 2 weeks. Please be sure to check out the billboard at the top of the space, or search hashtag GDAO billboard to find all the different project socials. Join their discords if you're interested. Check out Proof of Existence at proofofexistence.xyz. The token, our Proof of Existence token, currently is free plus gas, but it won't be that way forever, so be sure to check it out. And yeah, thanks for joining us, everyone, and I hope you have a good one.